improvised counterpoint, right? The beginning of it. So, I mean, just I think a lot of people have been sort of following like what's been happening the last couple of years, and we just assume that improvisation. I mean, really, was it always happening? Was Guido de Arezzo, was he improvised? I mean, we this is why you can help me. You can help everyone.
Yeah.
Give us the background to this. Were these monks always improvising, and
Well,
so what's the story here?
I think, Nikhil, that the story really is that as soon as there is music in the West, there is also polyphonic improvisation. So you talk
Whoa.
about Guido, for instance. We don't
Okay.
look at the letter, which is about solmization, but about the Microdocus. He described how to improvise an organum. So that is not exactly
Wow.
counterpoint,
Yeah.
but it sure is polyphony. And the picture you were just showing of the
Oh yeah.
singers
Right.
around the book, that's from the infamous Chantilly manuscript with very, very complex motets. And
Is that
if
why
you
it's
go,
infamous?
well, I mean, don't know if it's infamous for this picture because not a lot of people know this picture. But you see in medieval iconography a very interesting phenomenon that when singers are positioned around this stand, around this book, the
Yes.
book of the singing on the book, the Cantare Super Librum, they seem very often not so interested in the contents of the book. They seem to be
Right.
interested in social interaction. You see one of the singers is turned away completely from the book.
Yeah.
They're grimacing. Often it looks more like a rugby team than like a choir. And you go to the next one, for instance, you see also there a singer that shields his ear with a
Right.
hand. And this is a gesture, like, I don't know if there's any real connection there, but the gesture we know, for instance, from singers of polyphony on Corsica. They are doing this to isolate
Mm.
their own sound from the ambient sound, so they can concentrate on the collective sound that's being produced. And
Right.
again, here somebody doesn't really look that much at the book at all.
Right.
So I think that the iconography also is trying to tell you something about what singing together is here.
Yeah. You know what I've always like I've been reading a lot of philosophy recently, and I was just thinking to myself, my goodness, I mean, when you study like logic and rhetoric, these people were so smart. I mean, like so smart, like Aristotle. It's like astonishingly how smart they are. So for me, if you take any time period, it's not like we became much smarter. I just feel like I can totally believe instantly that there would be incredible improvisers almost at any period in history. So for what you're saying, I can instantly believe it that there would be some really phenomenal high level things happening just because the human brain is able to do this, and I don't think they were that much different physiologically 1,000 or even 2,000 years ago.
No, I think sometimes I think that the real cut happened actually only at the French Revolution. Maybe at the end of the interview, we'll come back to this notion of the longue durée. But the teaching methods, for instance, are somehow, of course, a lot of things changes between the Middle Ages and the 18th century, but some elements are remarkably persistent. For instance, the fact that you don't teach with general rules, you teach with particular cases. Of course, these cases have something to do with each other, but the way, for instance, in which the Vatican Organum Treatise organizes melodic formulae, it is very similar to a partimental treatise. It teaches the progression on the top of a chant progression, as a partimental treatise does it with the progression of a bass. So
Right.
there are elements about the building of this this memory palace, this immense stockage, this repository of musical elements. And here you see, for instance, that already very early they were aware that this count in the 14th century, or counterpoint in the 15th century, is written and is vocal. So the anonymous two, for instance, is the end of the 13th century. So you can compose, or you can produce discount ex improviso,
Mm.
from the unforeseen. And Prosdocimus in the early 15th century, he says that counterpoint is twofold, a bit like tinctoris. It's either written or vocal. and that what is vocal is sung, and what is written, surprisingly. So
Huh.
they're aware that they say it's actually there are two articulations of the art of counterpoint, or the art of discount, or organum, I guess, before, uh, but they are the same art. Composition is
Wow.
not a strictly divorced
Right.
from improvisation.
Right. Right.
And you get this kind of very interesting things, for instance, this kind of practical traces of it. Yeah, maybe you can see that there are solmization syllables written on top of this
Yeah.
benedicamus. So you see sol, fa, fa sol, re fa, and this is not the solmization of the written part. This is a solmization of a part you can add to it. So
Wow.
this chant is here on the hand, and the counterpoint should begin on de sol re, on this note. So you get a trace of a singer that wanted to keep in mind maybe the skeleton of a melody he was improvising, or the simple counterpoint of what he was improvising, and wrote it down in solmization syllables on
That's
top of
incredible.
the document. And this dates around 1400.
That's incredible. Wow. Okay. I so this the Benedicamus Domino. Okay. And
Yeah,
then here's another one from that
yeah.
same document.
It's not the same document, but it's the same tradition, I guess. Northern
Okay.
Italian tradition around 1400, and we have a lot of these Benedicamus Domino. It's a fantastic thing. It's the last chant of the Mass Ordinary, so
Mm,
I guess it was the occasion for something festive, something extraordinary. And again, of course, it's not an improvisation, but you see the tenor in equal notes. You see where the small B of Benedicamus on the, so they're you should sing these as longs. Bene, and then on top there is a part that moves with much quicker rhythm. Um, and these are exactly like what is later described as cantare super librum. Already in the very beginning of the 15th century, this tradition seemed to have been well established in the north of Italy.
the pre-Renaissance, before the Renaissance.
Yes,
This is
exactly.
going
So
strong. Yeah.
the Renaissance, Renaissance is interesting idea in some respects, but practices are ignorant of this kind of demarcation. They
Mm,
have developed slowly, and nobody throughout the old when in I guess around 1470 they decided now this is the musical renaissance.
right.
They
Right.
kept,
So you're
yeah,
saying even before like we make this thing about the Baroque and the Renaissance being this two different things, and then the Baroque and classical, and then the classical and romantic. Where even now we're going even further back, and you can say the same thing about pre-Renaissance or the 15th century and the 16th century. There is also another thread going through, and that's incredible.
yeah, this is the when you really get down into the bolts, nuts and bolts of the music. What you realize is that these separations that we have created for purposes of teaching, maybe, or for historiographical reasons, really the historical record is ignorant of them. So this tradition of what later, 70 years later, it's called Cantare Super Librum by Tinctoris, but the same tradition already exists a century before almost.